Somewhere along your journey of awakening, perhaps after a profound spiritual insight that rocked your world, or even in the quiet aftermath of a deeply personal breakdown, you felt an undeniable shift. It was a moment of crystalline clarity where the intricate web of illusion, the familiar patterns, the constant noise of the world and your own mind, it all simply dissolved. What followed was a profound silence. At first, this silence was breathtakingly powerful, an empowering calm that promised a new era of peace and passion. But then, almost imperceptibly, something began to vanish. Not with a dramatic bang, not overnight, but quietly, subtly, like your very soul had turned down the volume on life and somehow forgotten where the up button was. That vibrant sense of meaning, the relentless drive, the urgent desire to achieve, it all seemed to fade away. You stopped chasing, you stopped caring, not in a reckless or destructive way, but with a quiet existential sigh. The question started to whisper, then grow louder and louder in your mind. Why do I feel so numb now that I've finally seen the truth? There's a strange and unsettling paradox at play here, isn't there? We are often told, and we eagerly expect, that spiritual awakening will ignite our passion, filling us with boundless energy and purpose. Yet for so many of us, especially those deeply introspective souls, the empaths, the lifelong seekers, it does the exact opposite. It empties us. I recall a vivid conversation with a friend, brilliant and deeply attuned spiritually, who had devoured every profound book on awakening you could imagine, the works of Eckhart Tolle, Alan Watts, Jiddu Krishnamurti. She experienced a massive awakening after navigating her own dark night of the soul. She truly got it, she said. She saw through the illusion of identity, the ego's endless striving, the hollow pursuit of external success. And yet, just 2 months later, she was staring at her ceiling, barely able to summon the energy to get out of bed. She confessed to me, "I used to weep over not achieving enough. Now I simply don't care whether I do anything at all. I thought awakening would light me up, not leave me in this lifeless state." Long before the age of spiritual trends and social media, Carl Jung, the brilliant father of analytical psychology, had already hinted at this post-awakening fog. He didn't use trendy spiritual jargon, but he understood profoundly what transpires when the unconscious truly becomes conscious. Jung famously stated that enlightenment doesn't come by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This quote sounds beautiful, even inspiring, until you fully grasp its deeper, sometimes unsettling meaning. Awakening, in this Jungian sense, is not the triumphant end of a journey. It's the beginning of a profound psychological death. It's the death of who you thought you were, the dissolution of the very structures that previously gave your life meaning. Your old goals, cherished careers, established relationships, even your familiar sense of time and purpose, they all begin to collapse. But here's the crucial catch that Jung would point out. Your ego isn't gone. It's utterly confused. It has lost its meticulously drawn map for living, and without a new one, genuine motivation simply evaporates. So it's not that you are clinically depressed or permanently lost. You are, in fact, existing in a significant state of limbo. You have woken from something, but you haven't quite woken into something else yet. But this is where the journey gets truly fascinating and, quite often, deeply misunderstood. What you are feeling right now is not a personal failure. It's not necessarily clinical depression or anxiety in the traditional sense. It is something ancient, something sacred. Jung, in his vast wisdom, warned that our modern world frantically avoids this very phase at all costs, this sacred pause, this profound void, this unsettling in-between. He believed it was absolutely essential for what he called individuation, the deeply personal process of becoming your truly authentic whole self. Yet, no one prepares you for this part, do they? And that's precisely what we're going to unravel in the depths of this conversation. What is really happening within your psyche after awakening, and how this disorienting loss of motivation might, in fact, be the biggest spiritual upgrade you've ever experienced if you understand it correctly. Before we dive deeper, if you are someone who loves expanding your mind, challenging your perceptions, and exploring the hidden layers of life, make sure to connect with Fractal Wisdom. Our channel exists to make the invisible visible and to support those courageously navigating the often weird, wild, and solitary path of awakening. So, if you've been adrift in that post-awakening fog, constantly wondering where your spark went, know this: you are not crazy. You are undergoing a fundamental psychological shift that most people can't even name. It's a transformation so profound that it doesn't just tweak your thinking. It literally reprograms your entire operating system. All those goals you relentlessly chased, the endless to-do lists, the 5-year plans, the adrenaline-fueled hustle culture playlists, they simply don't move you anymore. This isn't because you're failing, it's because your entire old motivation system is undergoing a necessary collapse. And Carl Jung, with remarkable foresight, saw this coming long before it became a trending, unspoken truth. Let's break this down further. For the majority of your life, your motivation was intimately tied to your ego identity, the specific me you believed yourself to be. You were driven to prove yourself, to be seen, to achieve success, to be loved. This isn't inherently a bad thing. It's a natural, developmental stage of the human psyche. Jung called this your persona, the social mask we all wear to function within society. However, the awakening process fundamentally strips away this mask. Suddenly, you're not trying to be liked. You're not trying to win the game because, to your awakened eyes, you now see the game itself. And that's where things get incredibly disorienting. Without that old mask, your former goals simply don't fit anymore. They were meticulously tailored to a version of you that, on a deeper level, no longer exists. You're like a character who has stepped off the stage of a familiar play and suddenly can't remember their lines or even their purpose. This is precisely why you feel unmotivated. You haven't lost your inherent drive. You have simply outgrown the specific fuel that used to power it. Carl Jung firmly believed that our ultimate purpose isn't to serve the ego, but rather to integrate it, to align it with something vastly larger and more profound. He named this transformative journey individuation, the process of evolving from a fragmented identity into a whole, unified self. This isn't about fostering the small self that craves external praise or validation, but about connecting with the transcendent self, the profound soul-level center within you that connects to everything. And this higher self doesn't concern itself with status or approval or even immediate clarity. Its deepest desire is to express profound truth. So, once the initial awakening truly happens, your psyche begins a radical recalibration. It starts to instinctively reject anything that feels fake, forced, or purely ego-based. This can encompass your career, certain relationships, past ambitions, and even that meticulously crafted dream board from a few years ago. That's why people often describe awakening as simultaneously liberating and utterly disorienting. However, Jung also warned us, if we stop here, we get stuck. Some individuals awaken and, in an effort to cope, fall into the trap of spiritual bypassing. They convince themselves that nothing truly matters, that it's all just an illusion. As a result, they disconnect, they float through life, and they numb themselves, mistaking genuine detachment for disengagement. But the true self yearns for something far different. It desires to live through you, to bring a piece of the divine into this very human body. It doesn't reject the world. It profoundly redefines your unique role within it. To fully step into that role, you must first navigate a peculiar middle phase, one that Jung described with uncanny precision, but which very few people recognize while they're actually experiencing it. There's a specific phase after awakening that almost no one ever talks about publicly. It's neither glamorous nor does it garner thousands of likes on social media. It doesn't look like meditating serenely in Bali or eloquently crafting profound Instagram quotes. More often, it looks like this: sitting in profound silence, struggling to articulate what you're feeling while the world rushes by, seemingly oblivious. Carl Jung would emphatically tell you that you are not lost. You are, in essence, in between. You have successfully disidentified from the demanding grip of the ego, but you haven't yet discovered a new, authentic way to live from the deeper self. This space, far from being a failure, is a sacred rite of passage. But in our hyper-productive, achievement-driven world, this necessary stillness is frequently misdiagnosed as laziness, and a crucial pause is mistakenly identified as paralysis. And so, you judge yourself. That very judgment, paradoxically, blocks the life-affirming energy your soul is desperately trying to call back. Jung even had a powerful term for this psychological pause: enantiodromia. This is the natural process where things inevitably flip into their opposite. When you awaken, your inner pendulum swings dramatically from ego-driven striving to soul-level stillness. You shift from an intense "I must do everything" to a perplexing "why do anything?" And this swing, no matter how uncomfortable, is deeply sacred. It's how internal balance is fundamentally restored. In ancient myths and spiritual teachings, this period is often represented as the hermit phase, the essential death that precedes a profound rebirth. It's the pivotal moment when the caterpillar completely liquefies into soup within its protective cocoon. It's not yet a majestic butterfly, but it's no longer a crawling bug either. It's just goo. And well, goo doesn't get stuff done. It doesn't hustle. It dissolves. This is precisely where the ego begins to panic. It desperately craves action, a clear identity, a defined direction. But the self, in its profound wisdom, is gently whispering, "Let go. I am building something far deeper within you." Here's where much of modern spirituality tends to skip over the genuinely hard, transformative stuff. It often preaches just to follow your joy or insists on high vibes only. And while intention and energy are undeniably crucial, Carl Jung would firmly tell you that if you attempt to bypass or skip the darkness, you inevitably skip the true gold. Jung believed that shadow integration, the courageous act of facing and embracing the repressed, uncomfortable parts of yourself, is not optional or merely extra credit. It is the absolute core curriculum of being a complete human soul. This sacred nothingness, this profound void you feel, is the very space where the unconscious mind finally has room to rise, to be witnessed. You are not failing, you are metabolizing. Your psyche is incredibly wise and deliberate. It will purposefully stall your motivation, your drive, and even your access to clear direction, forcing you to feel, to witness, and to lovingly reclaim everything you have buried. That, my friend, is the real transformative work. And here lies the most beautiful, unexpected twist in this entire process. When you finally stop resisting the void, when you lean into the stillness, something strange and wonderful begins to happen. Motivation starts to return, but it feels profoundly different this time. It is not anxious, it is not performative, it is not the relentless grind of the old hustle. It is something ancient, something quieter, a deep, resonant hum. It's a kind of soul-led movement that feels more like remembering your true path instead of desperately chasing a fabricated one. Jung called this the emergence of the self, not as a fleeting concept, but as a living, breathing, inner compass that guides your every step. And here's an unexpected fact. This profound meaning is often found in the beautifully ordinary. When the self leads, you don't frantically hustle, you calmly respond. You are no longer motivated by the nagging fear of missing out. You are lovingly guided by what genuinely feels aligned with your deepest truth. You no longer desperately chase after clarity. You effortlessly recognize it when it beautifully arrives. Living from the self doesn't mean you'll always feel perpetually motivated in the conventional sense. You might still experience natural waves of fatigue, moments of confusion, or even bouts of grief, for that is simply being human. But what you definitively won't feel is that constant corrosive sense of inner betrayal, that exhausting feeling of dragging yourself through a life that no longer truly fits. Instead, you might begin to notice a quiet magnetism, a natural inclination to create, even when absolutely no one is watching. You'll find yourself effortlessly saying no to things that don't resonate, even if they look incredibly good on paper. You'll start following your genuine curiosity, not some pre-programmed checklist. You'll consciously choose peace over performance. This, my friends, is the new fuel. It's not adrenaline-driven, it is pure, unadulterated alignment. Jung passionately called this living symbolically, not living in a detached fantasy, but living with soul, where you begin to implicitly trust your inner imagery, your vivid dreams, meaningful synchronicities, and profound gut feelings as your most reliable guidance system. So, what does this actually look like in your real, everyday life? Sometimes it's as simple and revolutionary as asking yourself different questions. Instead of demanding, "What should I do?" you might gently inquire, "What is quietly calling me?" Instead of planning meticulously, "What's the exact plan?" you might ask, "Where is life subtly nudging me now?" Instead of striving, "How can I prove myself?" you might instead wonder, "What simply feels honest?" You begin to participate gracefully with life, rather than constantly trying to dominate it. And this doesn't mean abandoning ambition. It means powerfully transforming it. Ambition morphs into a profound devotion to truth, to presence, and to genuine growth. And the beautiful irony is that this kind of soulful energy gets things done far more effectively and with far less internal friction than the ego ever could. But now it's sustainable. Now it's truly soul-powered. This is the self's authentic motivation, not to impress, but to genuinely express. And it will inevitably lead you to create, to serve, to heal, to teach, and to build. Not because you feel obligated, but because your entire being profoundly says yes. So, if you've been feeling as though your spark has vanished after your awakening, remember this vital truth. It wasn't your ultimate flame that extinguished. It was the old, ego-driven fire that burned itself down, clearing the way for you to discover a far deeper, more resilient flame, one that doesn't flicker or die when external winds begin to blow. Carl Jung never promised an easy path, and if you're here, listening to these words right now, you are already courageously walking that profound path. This journey isn't about getting back your old motivation. It is about the magnificent discovery of an entirely new one, rooted firmly in wholeness, not in performance. This is not the end of your awakening. It is, in every sense, the majestic beginning of your becoming. If these words spoke to you, if they helped you finally name something you've been silently navigating, please drop a comment below. I would truly love to hear what this incredible journey has felt like for you. And if you crave more content like this, where we fearlessly explore psychology, soul, and self-awareness in ways that genuinely make sense for real life, make sure to subscribe to Fractal Wisdom. Because awakening isn't the end of the story. It's exactly where your real story truly begins.